Oh, Foxy, it's your birthday. Not for real, just for play. This is Cree Summer, and Moana Nui will be right back.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to the May 30th episode of the Moana Nui podcast. And we are continuing our celebration of Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander month. Tonight's panel is the last of our series in this month. But as Native Hawaiians, we celebrate our culture every single day of the year, not just in the month of May. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed our content. In case you missed it or you're new to the channel, please check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can look up Moana Nui Podcast, as you see right there on the screen. And also, if you go to that website, Moana the author, that links to our link tree, and you can find us from there as well. We had some great content earlier this month. We did our part 2 of Moʻokūʻauhau. We also had a wonderful conversation about Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander inclusion, in AA and HPI spaces. I think there's still lots of work to be done there because in my discussions with people here on the podcast and just, in friends circles and community circles, the NHPI is definitely minuscule if seen at all. So that was a wonderful conversation. Definitely check that one out. And I think we're trying to schedule a part 2 later this summer because that conversation still needs to be elaborated upon. And we definitely want to bring more voices into that conversation as well. We then had a wonderful episode on Mana Wahine with Kanoilani Davis and Kumu Michelle Manu, which I absolutely enjoyed that as well. And then last week we had our Pacific Islander storytellers with Anthony Perez, his channel is A Perez Voyages. You should absolutely check that one out. I'm a huge fan of his channel. AJ Paki Perkins, who's a children's book author, just like myself. And we had Kavika Hoke, who is the director and writer and showrunner for Moku Moku, the Hawaiian comedy series that is being filmed on Maui Island. So lots of great episodes. Also want to mahalo our viewers. We've been getting some really positive feedback, from the community. While we may not always see it in the comments, the Coconut Wireless is still in full effect, and we really appreciate the feedback that we do get from the community. If there are other topics that you would like to see us explore or expand upon previous episodes, we are always open to doing that. And if you would you're a community member and you would like to come on and be a part of the show, definitely reach out to us too. Moana Nui Podcast at gmail.com. You can provide us feedback, requests, comments, all those good things. So mahalo. So tonight's episode, we are doing our third part ekolu of Moʻokūʻauhau. I'm really grateful to our panelists because they have just brought so much of their mana'o and their ike to this platform, and just the energy between the four of them is all kind of good fun. So it's probably because, in some way or another, we are related, which is why Moʻokūʻauhau is a fun conversation to explore those connections and, see how many layers of relations we have. So without saying any more, I've been talking a lot already. I'm going to bring them on. We are joined tonight by Ki'ilei, Kalani,
Aloha.
Mapuana, and
Aloha,
our
Kako.
fearless leader, Jeff. Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
Welcome.
Aloha.
Alrighty, Jeff, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yep. Oh, come on, sorry. How are you going to hand them to him and then ham him? What kind? What kind of producer is going on?
Somebody had
tonight?
margaritas already, I think.
Sorry. Edit. Okay, Jeff, over to you.
We good? All right. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our part 3 series of Moʻokūʻauhau on our family genealogy. I want to thank our panelists here and also Papa Lōkahi. Anyway, we're going to just start by just reviewing or recapping what we've been talking about since the beginning. If we can have, we have Kile, Kalani, and Moana here. If you folks each want to just do a simple review of just a basic for those who are just beginning to start on their Moʻokūʻauhau. Take it away.
Oh, anybody.
Anyway, go ahead.
Aloha, I'm Ki'ile. I've been doing Moʻokūʻauhau for about, I guess, the past 30, 35 years. We did it because, it's just so interesting for us to do that. Wait, hold on. That was the question, right?
Recap.
That's why I was like, wait, I'm going on. And I said, wait a minute. So I've been doing it for that long. As far as if you're trying to just restart it, I think the last couple podcasts was just start with your own family, your own, write down everything that you can see. As you can see, right, we still have our books. And we're still writing down everything and all of the different things that we hear and see. The last podcast when we were talking too, I was writing down things too because there's some things you do forget and everything like that. But okay, that was me.
Moana?
Yeah, talk to your relatives, try to get as much information as you can. Hit the internet. We have multiple sites online that you can use and utilize to get more information, get further in your genealogy. When you exhaust all that, then you can go to the archives if you're researching Hawaiian genealogy. Learn the olelo. To get further and join Native Hawaiian Genealogy Society.
Yay!
Because you can ask questions there and people might know the answers, and could help you along the way. Anything else, Kalani?
And then echoing what Mapuana said, learning Olelo actually helps because when I started, I wasn't as fortunate to get as a lot of information from my own mother because it's her genealogy that I was tracing only because she later revealed in 2014, although I started in 89, that she was actually adopted. But that's why she was giving me the runaround. So I had to use a lot of documentation. I had to go to the family history library and I had to learn how to use all the material. At that time, they didn't have a lot for Hawaii, like with the census records, which now you can access online. And of course, learning the Hawaiian language helped because once they started digitizing the newspapers, which they actually had on microfilm, it became much more easier, especially if they index stuff. So it's just you can just type in a name and then you get a hit, maybe.
And every day things are being uploaded, so keep checking back.
That's true.
Keep checking back.
Remember us? We were like the old school days when you go to the library, you had to go through everything.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that.
Whereas now it's it's just so much accessible. So I think if people say, "Oh, it's too hard," or "I don't know where to go," I think in our time, it was like that where you're just writing down and everything.
Pressing that button so that the microfilm goes.
Yeah. Always gotta take a break because I get nauseous.
Yeah. I know you have to take it because your eyes get all sore and oh my gosh. And then so I think now how Mapuana, Kalani, even Jeff has mentioned, it's so much easier to just you can click download, and sometimes you can tell we're old school because we're still writing stuff and still going like that, because we're so used to that. But
and making charts on paper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, wait. I wanted to say that. Yeah. Okay. So I was making charts. I put pins because I've been doing several lines at once. And my father's side always is like, pick us, pick us, pick us, and so my mother's side always has to wait, but they're so nice. Okay,
I
moving
think
on.
one thing I took away from the old school method that a lot of people, I guess, they don't realize, because it's so much easier to just type in a name and then you get a
Mhm.
hit. If you don't get anything, or sometimes, either they're indexed incorrectly,
Yeah,
or it was just, now they have OCR, where they just read all these characters, these handwritten characters. If they're not accurate, it's best that you still do it the old-fashioned way, where I go
yeah,
page by page. I don't care
yeah,
how long it takes me, and then later on I'll go
Yeah.
back. I still, at the comfort of my own desk,
yeah.
in my home, I just go page by page until I find something, because
Right.
you just never know. And I mean, I always do find something eventually.
And then
And
remember
sometimes
this.
it helps. Oh,
No, no,
I was
go
done.
ahead. Go ahead. No, no, go after you.
Sometimes it helps to have another person look at it because they see things that you don't pick up on. So
Oh, I've had that many times. You pass, and then
yeah,
somebody goes, "Wait, go back again," and they would catch something that I just didn't
didn't
see or
see.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mapona is correct on that too, and it's fun too when you have somebody who is just right there in with you doing it,
Mm,
because then you
going
can be
through
like,
it
"Oh
with
my
you.
gosh, yeah." If you have somebody
Yeah.
that doesn't like genealogy or it gets bored easily, then it gets harder because then you have to either cut your time short, or then you're like, okay, what would you like to do or what would you like to see, and everything. But when you're with your ohana or your family that is just into it like with you, then it's a lot more fun, and it's a lot more, you get more things done.
Mm.
And then remember, I think I told you guys my great grandmother, I was looking for her marriage certificate. Her name is Ellen um Kamehaiku, and I couldn't find it for nothing. I was looking all over. I was looking in Ulukau. I was just going all over Kauai marriages. Couldn't find nothing, and I was thinking they have to be. And then what like how Kalani said, they wrote instead of Ellen, they put Helen. So
Mhm.
because I didn't write Helen, that's why I couldn't find her for so long, and I was going nuts, going, "Oh my gosh, how come?" I know that they got married, and everything, but like how Kalani said, so that's why I couldn't find her for the longest time until I think I went on somebody else's marriage, and then that's how I found my great grandparents' marriage. It's because I went on like a cousin or a sister of my great grandmother. She's actually my two times great grandmother. Sorry, Kalani. And then that's how I found it. Yeah.
That's
So
the name variation too is, I think we talked about that in the past, my great grandmother also was Elena, the
Yeah.
Hawaiianized version of Ellen, I guess.
Yeah.
But there was one time I saw they wrote her name as Helen. I was like, since when?
Yeah.
But maybe that's where it originated from, Helen, and then it was Elena.
You have
Yeah.
to play around, especially in Hawaii.
Yes.
You have to play
Yeah.
around with the name because the language barriers were pretty bad, especially when they converted over to making documents.
yeah,
So
so
you have to play with it.
our viewers out there, when you're actually trying to search an ancestor and you say the name as like Helen. Well, you just keep an open mind because there might be different variations in Hawaiian or just how they wrote it down. So don't always just look for Helen. Like sometimes it'll be a different what the panelist was saying. So and then speaking on that, what are some resources that the people can actually um, if you're just beginning looking into, I know there's a ton of resources online,
There's a
websites,
ton.
and all that. If you want to just touch briefly on some of the important ones that they probably want to check out.
Hmm.
Well, Papa Kilo is a good one because it's compiled with a bunch of you know documents, family search, ancestry. You might get some information on there. Well, you can get a lot of if your family traveled a lot. Ellis Island Manifest,
Oh yeah.
uh, and the Chronicles or the newspapers. Those are some really good sites that have a lot of information, or you can gather a lot of information on your ancestors. Lukau.
Mhm.
Got a lot of
For
documents.
those who live in Hawaii, you should really get down to the state archives, also the state library, because it's right next to Iolani Palace, I believe. Um, it's just really good to go old school and go get in there, because some things
Yeah.
are probably not available, but it's just really good to spend a day there. They're only open, I believe, from like 7 to 4, so it's kind of quick when you get in there, but it's worth it.
And just bring a piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
They
you
tell
can't
you to
go
do.
in with.
Because you have to put everything in the
the
locker.
archives. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to the archives. But if you are a member of the state's library system, they have stuff accessible online as well.
Yeah.
You can access things online with your library card, just your state library card. So, anything else? Anyone else want to add?
No,
No, tonight-
ancestry is a you have to subscribe to it in order to access.
Yes.
Same thing with newspapers.com. That is also useful if you look up information. A lot of the stuff is indexed. But as Mapuana mentioned, Papa Kilo database kind of just hits everything, which is good.
Always
Pepa.org.
cross-reference and make sure that the things that people put on, like let's just say Ancestry, are actually elsewhere, so to speak. I mean, you want two sources for your findings.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, more is better, always better. And sometimes you won't find that more. Sometimes you won't find that more. So, you're gonna have to look other avenues. But it's always good to have two sources of to solidify your findings.
Minimum, yes, I think so.
Yeah.
So minimum
Can you-
2, yeah.
Can you mention some of the sources?
Census records, as well as marriage, birth certificates, divorce records, probates,
Death certificates
land
too, yeah.
transaction,
Oh,
death
yeah.
certificates, delayed birth certificates for Hawaiian, or not even just Hawaiian, but Hawaii residents. Even ship manifest or obituaries. Trying to think.
They each have their own.
Yeah.
What do you call? So like obituaries can inform about other family members.
Yeah.
The spouse, if there's a surviving spouse, the children. If you're lucky, the females are listed with their married name. What else did you say? Death record. The death certificate depends on how much information you are allowed to see. Depends the period that you are able to access. It depends on the informant. So if the informant was not that knowledgeable, then you're out of luck.
Yes.
I don't know how accurate that may be or not.
Yeah.
I mean, because like my great
there are
grandfather,
a couple I came by and I was like, what? Yeah.
I've had it where
It all
I had
depends.
a birth record and a death record that contradict each other.
And
Yeah.
you might have
Yeah.
that. I mean, yeah. And then I think even in our family, there's like, for my great grandmother, she has several brothers, but one brother, his name is Alexander. And there's like 3 of them, but it's only supposed to be one brother and then his son, and that's it. But there's like 3 different times that this Alexander is. So it's like, okay, so she has another son that like we just didn't know about, but they named him. You know how like how everybody said too, when one child dies, it's like they named another child right after that child.
Yeah.
So then sometimes you're thinking it's the first child, but it's actually the second child. And then in this one, there's like a third one, and it's the same, like Alexander, and then the last name Alexander, and it's kind of confusing to be like, well, which Alexander is this, and everything. So yeah.
And so yes, dates are very important, but we have to remember that our record keeping was really poor. So it's difficult. It's difficult to decipher what exact year they were born, or if this is the same child, or is there more of them that have the same name. Yeah. Especially in a
Which is
native
why, yeah.
Hawaiian
Yeah.
Which is why it's
Geneal-
best to have more than one source or more than two.
Yes,
Good.
yes. So
At
you
least
gotta
two.
cross-reference. Yeah, it's very helpful.
For the viewers out there, I know we mentioned earlier about the Native Hawaiian Genealogy Society. If y'all have a Facebook account, it's a group that was created back in 2009, I believe. And it's just a great group to go on there, and you can post questions, anything related to genealogy and trying to find your ancestor. People will help you. There's, I believe, 12,000 members on there. But that would be a great source if you do have Facebook to get on there and
We're
ask
nearing
away.
15,000 members.
Oh, 15? Okay.
We're nearing 15,000 members, but that's good to know because there's a lot of people on there who might be able to answer your questions that you have of the area, people living in that area, yada yada, So
And everybody kokuas, everybody helps each other, you know.
yes.
We've seen people, they go, oh, here, I have this, marriage certificate. They just give it, or I have this census, or it's people are specific. Which child are you asking about? Because, in this family, there's maybe like 15 of them or something, so be specific. And so everybody just, helps each other when we're in there, because that's the whole point. Is to help everybody with their kuleana. Their kuleana is your responsibility to your ancestors.
So we're gonna get into some questions. If any viewers have questions, you guys can, send the questions in the chat, and we'll try and answer them. But I think our first question that we want to ask is, what does Moʻokūʻauhau mean?
It is your genealogical story.
Mm-hmm. Your lineage, your lineal
Your
descent.
lineage, yeah.
Kalani?
So for me, I make the distinction between, I don't know why, I only started doing this recently. There's genealogy, research, is all this paper and documentation, and then there's your Moʻokūʻauhau, which, if you're lucky, your family had passed on information to you because they received it from other family members or an ancestor, and they probably, if you have like multiple generations going back far, then that's your Moʻokūʻauhau. Hence mo'o, right? Like succession. And that's why sometimes I know people talk about like Moʻokūʻauhau, kuʻauhau, but for me, I do make a distinction. I say genealogy all the time as general, but if I say Moʻokūʻauhau, if I use it, I'm specific about like, this is what was told to me by a family member, and they got it from some other family member. I didn't ask which family member, but they got the information from whether it's because usually it might not be documented, or I can't find documentation. Just because I can find documentation, it doesn't mean it's not
true. Yeah. I think that's an important thing to go on to. So like Moana and Kalani and Jeff, like we all agree that documentation is really important. But I think there's also room, write down the stories, and even if you can't get it, like write it down, and who, like how
not
Kalani
to not to dismiss those stories that we got from our elders,
and then you say
don't
who
dismiss them.
Right, and then you go who it was, what time, what date, especially dates. What date was it that you heard this story, and then they'll tell you, like, even if they go, oh, my auntie Kalani said it, then you just write, oh, auntie, it's told for auntie Kalani, and everything. And
that's helpful. I mean, how many of us actually have I tell the story all the time about my half brother and supposedly half brother turns out to be a cousin, not a half brother. That's a story. But that kind of stuff is not documented, right?
Yeah.
But it depends on my relatives that I've said this to or explained everything to. If they pass it on, that's basically a Moʻokūʻauhau.
Yeah.
So in the past, our Kanaka people were, we were an oral society, right? We didn't have record keeping up to a certain point. So how has that changed today? Because now we kind of do have that, like, like what the differences are, or, from then till now.
To me, it's a need to know basis. Like only if I ask, then it'll, might be answered. Not necessarily will be answered, but might be
Yeah,
answered.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with
It's
that. I mean,
not like it's not like I was born to be the keeper of, my family line. In those cases, back in those days, they would orally be recited every day, and night before they go to bed. But I wasn't that person, so I gotta go bini ele, basically.
yeah.
I gotta go ask around, ask questions. I'm sure some of my family members are like, "What is wrong with her?" But oh well, they like my charts.
Like your chart.
They like looking at it like, "Ooh, oh really?" Yeah, so to each
I
his
think
own.
it was different than to, like Jeff is saying, we didn't have a written society, so everybody relied on their memory. And Hawaiians, um, our Kanaka Maoli people were just so outstanding. They could remember everything,
Yeah.
recipes and how to fix this, and everything was orally. I think as the missionaries came and things started to change our society, I think that's where we as a whole people started to lose that. Because if especially for the chiefs, right, you had to you had to know the correct, like you couldn't be announcing a chief and then forget midway, right, the genealogy. You'll
Hmm.
be killed right there on the spot, right? So of course they had to know it. You had to memorize it, and like how Mapo is saying, you're just saying it over and over and over and over, day and night. And then when it is your time to um, bring this chief in, right, you're reciting his whole genealogy and who he's related to, and everybody can hear who his family is and what. And a lot of the people that he's related to are like our akua, our gods. So
I,
of course they have to. I think as time has gone on, we've forgotten that part of it, and so we have to rely on writing down. We have to rely on stories. We have to rely on, oh, well, Tutu said this, and that's just what you stick with. I think some of our members, even you, Mapuana, even though they say you like your charts, like you, that's still awesome because that's part of memorizing too, right? Knowing which line and which child goes with this, and oh, this is the mother of the first child, but this is not the mother of this child, and
I
all
can
of
I
that.
can
So
ask Hile. I can ask Hile something,
yeah.
and she'll shoot. I swear her memory is so good. She'll bust it out of nowhere, like, "Oh, that's cousin so and so." I gotta look. I gotta look at. Wait, let me get back to you. Let me.
Yeah. But I
That's
think
me.
that's
But
all that's I think that's part of what happened to us too, because I think if we were all back in 1300
I think
or
it
12,
has
we
something to
would
do
we
with
would
the
all
culture
just
being
yeah,
dismissed as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yes, yes,
we didn't
yes,
practice it, so it
yeah,
didn't move forward.
yeah. And then when we switched from Olelo Hawaii to Olelo Haole to English, that changed
Yeah.
a whole big. That's another topic too, but that changed the whole thing too for us also. Yeah.
Oh,
So it leads us to our next question. Since we're talking about our ancestors, um, what is a favorite story of one of your ancestors that you want to share?
is that
Hmm.
Look at us.
Good or bad?
I know, right?
Good or
So,
bad?
well, I only found this out because of the newspapers, right? And I don't know if the family actually knew about it. So my great grandfather was an athlete that I saw according to the newspapers. He was well known. His father was a captain of the police in Honolulu. Eventually, he was a member on the police force as well. And then some other stuff like the stuff that I found that he, drinking, the whole, fighting with the spouse. I don't want to say too much, but I remember the article said basically his coworkers, right? When the police was called, they were like trying to let him cool off because they knew he was an athlete and as drunk as he was, they just didn't want to like mess with him. So he calmed down, and then they took him over to the station and had a good talk with him. But yeah, that's without too many details. That's the best story ever.
I have stories like that too. Oh, and in genealogy, just to know, like not everybody's is like a white picket fence in the house and the dog. Yeah. So if you're gonna be surprised, you're gonna be surprised in genealogy. Like I thought that was his sister. He had a baby with his brother's sister. Yes, things like that happen. And so I think sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone of like that Christianity type of thing because a lot of us are Christian now. But you have to kind of get out of that. Before it was okay. You can have three wives. You could be jumping from island to island and having children on those islands, and it wasn't considered bad, right? But now, of course, if you're jumping from island to island, it's considered bad. I have one. It was a birthday party, and my three times great grandfather. This is on Kauai, down Haena, down the north side, and he was celebrating his wife's birthday. So my three times great grandfather, his name is Mahi Pu'ule, and he was celebrating his wife's birthday, and her name is Kalau Kehau Kauka. And he was celebrating it, and the pu'ules are known in Wainiha as the rocket launchers. So he sent, I think, his son and two nephews up to the top of the mountain. I think it's Mount Makana, but don't quote me on that. And so, as part of the celebration for his wife, they would light the sticks and then throw it. So it's like you're watching fireworks, but it's not fireworks. And so there were the rocket launchers down that side. So he was throwing. So for a good from like 8 to 10, they were watching and they were just throwing the branches actually. So you're just throwing it and throwing and throwing. Well, what happened was then the side of the mountain caught fire. So the side of the mountain caught fire. They're still launching the rockets and just we call it rockets, right? So they're just launching it and going. The side of the mountain is ablaze. And after it was done, it was like, okay, who everybody come to our house? So everybody went to their house to go eat and have a grand old time after watching quote unquote like the fireworks. So that was a cool one when we heard about the fire launchers. And that was our family. Yeah. But look, the mountain caught on fire.
Apuana, do you have a story?
I have many stories that I just like to walk in their footsteps. Um,
I
I like to read all of their stories. It's amazing how they got by a lot of times. Like, wow, that's
Mhm.
interesting. Um, I, I can't really think of. There was this one story that my grandmother told me about Watertown. If you're not familiar with Watertown, it was a town before Damon Track. Um, um, but just the fact that it was the red light district type of thing um, was fascinating to me. And now it's the airport, so it's that was a cool thing just to think about. Or I have taxi dancers in my family. If you're not familiar with taxi dancers, they were 10-cent dancers for the military. So
I think we all.
that
I think we
and
all
there were
have
a lot of them. So yeah, that was fascinating. I had beauty queens. I don't know,
Mhm.
all kind of stories. It's just good to walk in their shoes and stay humble.
Yeah.
Basically, we are
And then so if
fortunate.
you hear these stories, just don't get all like, oh my gosh, my ancestor did that. Things were different too then. Also, you have to look at the time frame too. It's different. It was different then. In Puna, my family right there from Puna, and a lot of times on the weekends they would just be drinking heavily, and that was the thing, right? Because nobody would go down to Puna too because it's just like the boondocks, but it's just a thing. Of course, if you go to other places too, right? Everybody drinks heavily, but I just want to say, like sometimes the younger ones will be like, "Oh my gosh, that's all they did was drink." It's like, yeah, that was a thing. And so just keep that in mind when you're hearing stories and you're writing it down. Just be like, "Oh yeah, just at that time, that was what everybody, could do and get away with."
Moana brought up a great point about walking with her ancestors,
Walking in there.
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's important because if you're trying to do your family genealogy, it's not just you're trying to find their birth and death date. It doesn't. That's not even the whole
It's to
point of it.
connect with them, and
Yeah, you want to know who
they'll help you and guide you.
they're the mo'olelo, the history, the story of who they were. I mean, they were someone. What did they
Mm-hmm.
do? We're not here to pass judgment whether they did something wrong or whatnot, but
Mm-hmm.
just to know when you find the information, it's really inspiring. I'll share a little short story about my paternal grandfather, which I never knew. And I just came across an article that I found on one of the newspaper sites. And at the time, he was married to our grandmother, and I think he had 2 kids, and either she was hapai or pregnant, or she just gave birth, and they were facing eviction. So, because I believe he lost his job, and at that time he couldn't pay, rent and all that. But I was just reading it, I was just kind of heartbroken because, it's my grandpa, right? That I never knew, and I was fortunate enough to grow up with our grandfather. He lived to be 91 years old. Passed away when I was a senior in high school, so it
Oh.
was just a special, moment for us. And I always think about stuff like that I never knew, and I would share it with all my first cousins and even my siblings that they didn't know either because none of us were born.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if I had which goes to the next question, if you were sitting on a table with your tutu across you and her tutu, what would you talk about? What would you
Oh
ask?
man.
I would show her everything that I found.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, one of my grandmothers spent almost a lifetime looking for her ancestors, and later in her life, we bring her to Palau Papa, and we started that journey with her. So I think that she would just be very emotional to know how far we got. I would just show her everything that I found and how good the internet is, how easy it is now.
I think I would want to ask, like the Hamapoana saying, what, like, how, what, where, when, and why? How did you guys survive? What did you do? How did you do it? In Puna, my grandmother, there's a story that she and her cousin, because they would go fishing all the time. So when they caught fish, how you slice them and you butterfly them, and they had to stay there with the tea leaves, right, and chase all the flies away, and do that. That was their job. But I think I would want all of those, things, and her to I would just want to ask like everything. How did you do it? How are you doing it? How is it that we're still carrying all of this? And I think like how everybody on this panel, when we're talking about our ancestors, we're gonna be ancestors too, and then our kids and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren are going to be doing this, and so there's still work to be done from our ancestors, and that's why we're still doing this, because it just doesn't end. It doesn't end when they pass away
Yeah.
either. There's still some things from our lines that go all the way back to when, right, the first people arrived. That we're still, as our individual families, that we're still doing
Finding
for,
out. Yeah.
yep, our Moʻokūʻauhau and everything. So
And it'll
that's a really
continue
big thing.
when
Yes,
we're gone.
when we're gone
It'll
too.
continue when we're gone.
Kalani, you have anything?
Yeah, just with my grandfather, I would ask like, why did you change your name from a Hawaiian name to a Chinese name? There was
Right.
speculation from the relatives,
Yeah.
and then there was something else that I found that might have been what caused him to do it. He left the Big Island after he got caught trying to steal sake. Yes, that was in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Not like maybe 2 or 3 years after that is when my mom's sister was born, and then they carried this new name. So I don't know. Maybe according to some relatives, they were saying that he wasn't proud of who he was. Being Kanaka. So of course, all the kids they have they have Chinese Hawaiian on their birth certificate. My mom's, for her mother, it says Hawaiian Chinese versus her father Chinese Hawaiian, and none of them had Chinese, by the way. None of them.
Hey, and that's another
Yeah,
thing
so
too.
I
Like
said,
nobody
why?
really, yeah.
What happened? So I don't know. I don't know. It's just why did there's so many things that I could ask. Like why? What were you thinking? Of course, that was a different time, but
Oh,
who
we could
knows?
probably ask like specifics. Like, who is your tutu? Okay, I'll write this down right now, like because we gotta go search. But who
Yeah.
is your
I'm
tutu?
sure there's a lot of questions that I could ask, but just to sit with them would have been, just for a little longer. Is
Yeah, I
actually,
miss my tutu. Shucks, I miss my
yeah.
I miss him so much. It's you know how people always say, oh, as life goes on, you'll appreciate, but to me, it gets harder because you realize how long they've been gone. And so sometimes
Yeah.
it is harder to deal with it because it's like, dang, you've been, like, wow, you've been gone that long. And then I just miss them so much, especially, I'm not picking the sides, but my mother's um, parents raised me longer than my father's parents. So my father's parents raised me first, and then I went to my mother's parents, but my mother's parents raised me longer. So I miss my tutukani and my tutuhine like so much, like just so much it hurts, you know. But yeah.
Is there just to piggyback off of that? Uh, or do you folks have family traditions that you folks still do or keep? That was passed down from your tutus.
Hmm. Not
Um,
me. So,
every
oh,
year, my family does lao laos, like 200 plus lao laos or whatever, um, the day before Thanksgiving to have at Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
Gathering basically is what was just getting together. Period.
When my Volvo was alive, every
I don't
Sunday
know.
we
I had
went.
a
Oh, sorry. Which one?
no.
What Mapuana?
Go ahead.
No, no, because you were saying you had a what?
I also have entertainers in my line, and my now people who are still alive like to sing karaoke. I don't know if
Yeah.
that if that is
No, that is a
considered a
tradition.
tradition,
We have that
but yeah, they
in our
all
family
play
too.
music and sing
Yeah.
karaoke and all that jazz.
So to go with that, so for me, we have entertainers too, and on our side too, and at family parties, right? You have your limo song, and I call it your limo song because that's the song you dance like ever since you were small, like 3 years old till now, right? So my limo song was "Beautiful Kauai." And then that was my limo song. So even when I dance it now, I just crack up. I go, "Oh yeah, this is my limo song," because you just dance it all the time. And when I was younger, when you're like 3, 4, 5, that's the only song you know, right? So that's the one you're gonna dance. But when you get older, yeah, you just crack up. Oh, this is my limo song. I'm coming. I think my Volvo,
That's so
my
funny.
Portuguese, my Portuguese great grandmother, she married my great grandfather, Lucer Pu'ule on Kauai. So every Sunday we went to her house, and Sundays was reserved just for her because everybody was working during the week. And I remember, as being in high school, you want to be with your friends, you just want to hang out, and everything. And my mother said, "Nope, we're going to Vovo's house." And I just remember asking, like, "But how come? Like, why can't I have just one Sunday with my friends?" She said, "Because she said she waits the whole week, and then Sunday she would cook. She would make her Portuguese soup, and remember banquet chicken. And banquet chicken used to be really plenty, so she would make banquet chicken. Banquet chicken is still my favorite chicken, and she would do all these things, and she would wait for everybody to come. So she would, it's an open invitation. So my mother said, we always are gonna go because she waits just for that day. And so Sundays I still have it as like that's a family day just for all of our family, whether it's just my immediate family or now I go to see my parents. and all of that. And then so we kind of reserve Sundays for that. So that's a nice tradition. I like your tradition with the lao laos. I want to do that, but to get all of us together, it's kind of hard. But I want to do a kulolo tradition,
Mm.
Oh,
but I haven't
yeah.
started it yet. I've said it maybe about for the past 5 years, but I haven't done anything yet. But I would like to do that.
It's hard to get my family together the day before Thanksgiving because my generation are cooking now. So, they
Yeah,
don't. When we were younger, when we were 20, when we were whatever, suck them up and make lao laos, that was good fun.
yeah,
Sure. But not anymore. It's hard now to get us all together. But, 1 year this cousin come, the next
yeah,
year that cousin comes. So,
yeah.
it's still going, but yeah, it is hard to get everyone on the same
It's
boat.
different too. Yeah, didn't it feel like everybody just got together? All the aunties and the
Yeah,
uncles, whether and then they're like the in-laws would come with with
yeah,
like my aunties, like my uncles, their wives, like their family would come also to our
yeah,
family stuff.
yeah,
So it always felt like like, oh, everybody was there. And then now, yeah, like how you're saying, to get everybody together, it's just so extremely hard. And then people are moving all
yeah.
over now, so
That
it's a
is the
lot
most
harder.
difficult
Yeah,
part. A lot of them are on the continent now,
yeah,
and yeah, and some of them are suffering from social anxieties thanks to COVID.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so
So, I think a question that I want to ask is each of us obviously started, our genealogy years ago. And if could you folks share with the viewers why you started, what got you into that?
um, my particular reason was I had to fix my birth certificate because I was
Mm.
born out of wedlock. That's kind of what started my curiosity. Um, Talking to my grandmother and figuring out that she was searching, and I was, trying to tell her, well, nowadays it's a little bit easier. You don't have to keep catching a bus to the archives, Grandma. Let me just show you a thing or two, or, you know, let me help you out. That's kind of where I started. Where, yeah. Of course, along the way, I had to learn the lingo. I had to, which is why I totally thought this was a good idea because
I think his
um,
bottle is out there. I think.
it took me a long time to get where I'm at now. It took me a long time. So to help other people get there faster
Hmm.
would be good, right?
I think mine is our family just was doing it all the time, especially my mother's side. Like they're just so Sundays, like I said, when we go to my Vovo's house, like we would always talk about her family, my Vovo's Portuguese side, and who like she would, like you kind of test us, like who is her mother, who is her father, what is the name, and if we're listening. And then on the Hawaiian side, my uncle Tane, um, he was just so he's the kind that could just remember like not only our lines but everybody else's line and be like, oh, you want to know how we connect to them? And then sometimes I'm just stuck on this name, right? It's just like and then my uncle is talking about their lines. It's like, wait, is that our line? He goes, no, that's how we grew up next to them, so this is their line, just so you know. And then sometimes you're like, wait, you gotta scratch all this off. But I think on both of my sides, they just always did it regularly. We always had discussions too about they would pick a topic. So they would pick a topic like who was Oahu's first um, chief? What was the most secret part on Oahu? And Kukani Loko, and why was that secret? So we always had these type of discussions when I was younger. And when my mother married my father is Hawaiian, Czechoslovakian, and Irish. But my father is blonde hair and blue eyes. So a lot of times people would just be like, that's your dad? And I was like, yeah, that's my father. Like you just look at him, that's my daddy. And so sometimes they would be like, they would look at him. He looks Hawaiian, but he just has blonde hair and blue eyes. And so on his side, they kind of more they were kind of more secretive, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. They're just a little bit more secretive. And his mother, my grandmother, she and her older sister Katie were like the keepers of the genealogy. But my grandmother, like, she wouldn't just open up, and if we asked, she was old school, old Hawaiian kind. Like, you ask the question, "What was your mother's name?" She would say it one time, and you have to remember. And then if you ask her again, she just would pretend like she didn't even hear you. So my mother's side is a little bit more open, where they always talked about it. My father's side a little bit more, you have to kind of learn how to be, when my grandmother just said it once. And then she always said, "Don't disturb the dust," my grandmother. And she would be like, so she would say, "If this is your genealogy, don't be over there trying to covet somebody else's genealogy. This is yours. Be proud of who you come from. Be proud of who you are and everything." So we always had like these type of conversations. I remember, I think I don't know if I told this in, like, just to you guys or to everybody, but my favorite princess is Nahi Ena, and she's my favorite princess for so many reasons. But I remember just saying it out loud, and I was like, if I ever had a daughter, could I name her that? Nahi Ena. And my grandmother just turned to me, like, that fast turn, and she looked at me and she said, "Is that your rank?" And I looked at her and I was just like, "No." And she was like, yeah. She goes, "That's not your rank." She's like this, "Yeah, that's not your rank." And she said, "That's her rank. Her name shows her rank." So she's like, you don't name your daughter that, because that's her name. That's her rank. It shows her ranking, yeah, in her name. Lahi Ena Ena. And I was like, "Oh, but she's my," how, as this is where it is when you're talking to kupuna, to you young ones, you have to understand when they get angry too. So my grandmother, she got mad, and she was just like, "You don't do that. You don't name your child after her. That's her name. You have to find another name." But she wasn't so calm like that. She was really upset with me, and I was just saying, "Oh, but she's my favorite. She's my favorite." She goes, "But that's not your rank. And because that's not your rank, you can't be naming your daughter that, because that's not your daughter's rank either." And then you have to think about it. So I think when I had my daughters, my father said, "I did some pulis, I did some prayers. If you want to name your daughter that, it's okay." But I said no, because of what my grandmother said so many years, ahead. And so my daughter Moana is named after my mommy, because that's my parents' first granddaughter. And then my daughter Tiile is named after me, and my grandmother. So then that's what I settled on, yeah.
Kalani.
Okay, come on.
Oh my gosh. Good question. Oh, like why? So because I wasn't raised by my mother, I decided
Right.
to look into my genealogy. It took me on a long journey because I found out that she was actually adopted from that 10 years ago when I started 35 years ago.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's one reason why I got started.
Jeff,
Yes.
your turn.
Oh, my turn.
Yeah.
Um, 2009, we had a family reunion, and we were in charge of it, our immediate family. And so my sister was the chairperson, and she asked me to do our genealogy. And
Oh.
at the time, I didn't really know. I mean, I knew who our great grandparents were, and that's kind of where it ended, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started. I just started gathering stuff at the time, and then eventually it kind of was it's my kuleana, my passion, and I haven't stopped ever since.
Yeah.
When you start doing it, it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna do your mom, and then wait, what about your dad? What
Yeah.
about his parents? What about their parents? And it just keeps going and going, so it
Yeah.
never really stops.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I kind of fell into it. So, um,
And
and
even with the newborn babies, yeah, that's writing down their names and when they're born and who they belong to. Okay,
No,
sorry.
it continues on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Sorry, Jeff,
continues
didn't mean
on.
to interrupt.
yeah, no, you hit on a pretty important
Here.
when it comes to names. Naming
Oh, I
your
have.
kids, or
Yes.
even trying to like for me, it's I ran across this girl on Facebook. I saw her kid's name, so I asked her, "Where did you get that name from?
Yeah.
Are you family?" And she said, "No." I go, "It was given to me by a priest or something." I go, "Well, I basically told her that that's our family name and that she shouldn't have it."
Yes.
I go, "Do you even know what it means?" And she said, "No." I go, "Well, I don't understand. I don't, I kind of, at first I was kind of a little upset about it because it's not like you just pick a name because you like it or because, oh yeah, I like his name or whatever. That is not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So traditionally and culturally, there's a lot of mana'o that goes into it. There's a lot of, chanting and
Mm-hmm.
pule and prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's at night, during the day, in your dream or whatnot, there's a lot. So anyway, I left it at that, and I just said, you probably should not use it because it is a kapu name,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not, that name does run in our family, but we know it's a specific person. So I just thought that was kind of when you hit on the money. I kind of just triggered some, things that I remember a few years back.
Just
Okay.
recently, I came across two entries that seemingly have no connection to my two times great grandfather, but have his name, which was kind of, it's kind of weird. But I have seen, for instances, where they name the child after somebody that they admire, or, so that's something to keep in mind as well. But interesting. I
I
wonder
think,
what that connection is, right? You want to
yeah.
dig for that story.
Yeah. And then names are Hawaiian possessions too, and it's just so important. And I have an olelo no'eau. So this olelo no'eau is number 1826. It's on page 197. It says Kolea akui ka ohana, which means cry plover in seeking one's kinfolk. It says names are family possessions, like Jeff, you're saying. In seeking one's unknown kin, repeat the family names until they are found. And I think like what Jeff touched upon, like when we talked about it in the last podcast, just be careful of other people taking your genealogy, because if you know that that name is in your family name, then you know that that's your line and how it's going down from, you know. So like if Kalani, if you're like Kalani number 4, I'm just saying, like that it's like his father, his grandfather, and his great grandfather, it's like that's their family names. And then some names you when you hear it, you go, oh, that's a Kauai name, or yeah, oh, that's a Maui name, or that's a Hawaii island name. And so those names, that belongs to that island. Like Cavellos, we know Cavellos are Kauai people, right? Keaves are Hawaii island people, and so when you're looking at the name Kama, right, are Maui people. um but just when you're looking at it, you kind of can tell. And then when you see that family, and then you just hear the family names and how it's repeated over and over, you kind of go, "Oh yeah, yeah, that is their family name," or. And if you do ask and they say no, it's okay if they say no. Don't be like, oh my gosh, I asked Jeff for his Hawaiian name and he said no, and oh, I'm so hurt. Don't be hurt. Just always know in your mind he may have it for somebody else. He may have it for his son or his grandson. He may have it for his niece, or it's just you just never know where this is going, or what Jeff has. When he's looking at his children, when he's looking at his niece and nephew, or if you're kind of seeing how the child is, you go, oh, okay, if they come and ask, and everything. So I think for naming, yeah, you have to be careful too. And on naming, Hawaiian, you guys know your name from your family. So like Kalani, if Kalani's name means, I'm just saying, I'm just using this. If Kalani's ancestors told him that his name means the chief of all the heavens, then that's what it means. But don't go and correct him and say, oh, your name just means the heavens, because whatever is in that family, so Mapuana's family, Kalani's family, Jeff's family, my family, whatever is said that's what that name is, that's what the meaning is. So don't
Yeah.
be like, oh my gosh, Kalani, no, your name just means the Ka is the, and Lani means heaven. We go, yeah, 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 yeah.
No,
Don't,
you cannot.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't do that, because in every family there's, like I said, Kalani could mean, right, the chief of all the heavens, but they just say Kalani. And the chiefs, when you read any of like ruling chiefs in the books, when they talking to the chief, they would say, "Oh Kalani," right, which is like, "Oh my heavenly one." So that's how it
Or
was. That's how they spoke about
it
the
could
chiefs.
mean a bunch of things,
Yes,
actually, right?
yes,
So
yes.
it's really up to the person who gave that name,
Name.
what exactly it means, what
Remember,
they were conveying.
yes. Remember when I told you that one? She was Hawaiian too, and she interviewed Keanu Reeves when he first made it, and then she asked Keanu what his name meant, and it means, and he said his name means the cool breeze that goes up the side of the mountain. And the girl who was writing the article, she's like, "No, Keanu means cool. Look it up. It's in Pukui." Well, it's true that that's what that means, but his grandma, right, or his ancestor who named him that, that's what Keanu is,
They
the,
they
the
wanted
cool
to
breeze that
keep
goes
that.
up the mountain. And they're not going to put, right, Keanu Rika, Anu Okomakani, or, they didn't do that. They just said Keanu, but that's the meaning behind his name. So when you're naming your children, um, just um, be open to, if somebody does tell you, be open to, you can say Keanu and it can mean a longer thing and everything like that. And it's okay to use genealogy names. But, when I see the young ones, um, sometimes some of the names, and then instead of just saying the whole name, you know how you cut it? I just feel uneasy sometimes because that's a high chief, or, and so I just feel uneasy sometimes when, you know, you're naming that and then you're not saying the whole name because they should be honored that way. Okay, sorry, call my.
Some people call me Mapu, but Mapu means gorilla, you know?
Not for real.
So, yes, Mapu means gorilla. So,
Okay, I
sometimes
don't.
people would tease me, gorillas in the mist, because, Mapuana means to, well, what they wanted it to mean is to, um, the mist of the ocean, to send forth that mist when the wave, yeah.
Oh,
So,
nice
they
though.
used
That's
to
a nice
tease me,
name.
gorillas in the mist.
Peck
That's a
peck.
little
No.
personal for me. A little personal.
Oh,
But
but
yeah,
that's a
so
beautiful
don't
meaning
it
to your name.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful meaning.
Kalani, you have anything to add?
No, nothing.
So, if there's one thing that you could, I guess, what one or two things that's most important to you to let the viewers know about Moʻokūʻauhau, what would that be?
Um don't I want to say don't hoard your information, but I want to say be selective. Be selective to who you share your information with, but don't
Yes.
die with it. Don't die with it. I mean, of course, I'm sure 5 years from now, our daughters and sons and grandchildren will be able to find some of this information, but not the stories that we hold.
Mhm.
We have to tell those stories,
Mhm.
but you gotta be careful who you tell the story to, if that makes sense.
Mhm. It does make sense. I
Okay.
think don't give up. If you keep hitting
Yeah,
walls
keep
and
keep
keep
trying.
keep going, and then just so everybody can understand too, you know Kalani, Mapuana, Jeff, and I, we come from different families, so it's all of our kuleanas to carry our ancestors forward, and we carry them right now. So it's not fair for me to go to Jeff and Mapuana and Kalani and go, well, I just don't feel like doing it anymore because I'm running into all these dead ends. Here, you guys do it. Because they have their kuleana, their responsibility to their ancestors. I have my responsibilities to my ancestors. And so to put that burden on them, that's unfair because they have their ancestors that they have to take care of. And so when you are doing genealogy, and you hit a wall or you get frustrated, it's okay. Just take a breather, come right back to it. And you may have to go outside of your line, like an uncle or yeah, your grandfather's sister, and then it helps you come back into your line. So just know that it's okay to hit the walls and everything. But I think my main thing would be like it's everybody's individual kuleana to carry their ancestors and
On
do
their
their work
shoulders. Yep.
on your shoulders that they want done, and it just is never ending. So um be mindful to them too when you're carrying them into this new age of right click click and you can get things um done so quickly.
What do they call that? The instant gratification, right? You
Yeah,
cannot always expect it with genealogy. It's a long. I mean, we've been doing it for over 3 decades now,
yeah,
and for that very reason, because I ran into brick walls all the time. But working on collateral branches is what actually helped me
yeah,
go back further,
Yeah.
and same morning as Mapona, don't work on I mean, just because you work on another branch, collateral branch, or and it
yeah.
leads you somewhere else, it doesn't mean that's yours to have and to take and to like
Yes,
brag about. And we're
yes,
not going to mention any names because some people do that or
yes,
have done it,
Yeah.
yes.
So
and that's
a lot
another
of people do
podcast.
that actually
That's another.
without sources. They just put
Yeah,
it there. Yeah.
yeah,
So basically, what they were saying about that is, for the viewers out there, when you're doing your genealogy, you should be sticking to your family. Sometimes, we might see other families, but that is not our kuleana. It should be whoever that family is. They have their own. Their tutors will pick and choose who they want it done on their side.
right,
That's what I truly believe.
right.
Um, and then I just want to leave the viewers with my mana'o. Um, when you think of your ancestors, your tutus, say their name. Whether you want to chant it, dream it, say it, but when you say their name, they live again, right? That's what I believe.
Hmm.
So it's pretty powerful. I know it might be a mindset kind of thing, but it's just the fact that when you say their name, it's like, oh, you know, you come across your great grandfather or your great great grandparents who we never knew because they already passed away. But once you find them, honor them. For me, I was
Yeah.
fortunate to meet a lot of different people over the past almost 15 years when I'm doing, our genealogy. I went to meet a lot of aunties and uncles and cousins I never knew. And we just shared stories. They would, bust out their books and everything and would share with me. And half of them have already passed away.
Mm.
So, and I think I did put a post on the group in Facebook honoring the ones that helped me
Yeah,
over the couple years, which I
Auntie
was very
Charlie,
thankful.
Auntie
Yeah.
Flo,
So,
yeah,
but it's like an adventure for me, like I'm solving a puzzle kind of thing. But also, I really do feel that our tutors chose us or myself to do the legacy because no one has done it before. And even if someone has done it, it maybe was not done the right way.
yeah,
I know when we had the reunion 10 years ago, we never had a reunion before, and there was always a reason. There was always an issue, a problem, or something that stopped it. And so I came along, and I had to explain it. I go, it's not meant for you. I go, how did I get it? I asked, and it came. And that's all. I that's the only answer I could give. But you know, it's really important. Our families, all our families are important. You know, honor them, whatever you want to, however you want to do that. Even if you want to have a get together, like a family reunion kind of thing, or even if it's a little small family, because we do that. Like my great grandma's birthday, my great grandparents, whenever they pass, I'm always posting things on my Instagram, my Facebook, to tell you who they are, their name, and when they died, when they passed, who they were. Something simple. Just to share with the people in the family. I just think it's important so they know who they are. So,
Hmm.
does anybody have any last comments? I know we're kind of at that time. We're past the hour, so I'll give you folks a little few minutes to close it out, and then we'll end.
Thank you for joining us. And if you decide to join us at the Native Hawaiian Genealogy Society, just come with aloha. Shout out to Dean. Shout out to Dean Kiko'olani. And
yay, Dean!
I know.
Mahalo, yeah. If it wasn't for him, like we wouldn't all be
Mahalo. I know.
connected.
So many people want to thank him, and
Yeah.
and the rest of them who
Yes.
started it. You know, it wasn't just Dean, but
Well,
yeah,
he did
mahalo,
start it.
mahalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an okay, sorry. I have an Olelo no Eao. I'm gonna read again. This one is an Olelo no Eao. It's number 31 on page 6. It is Aya Apaiya Kamaka Haiya Kupuna Nana Ole. Only when your
Boy.
face is slapped should you tell who your ancestors are. Hawaiians were taught never to boast of illustrious ancestors, but when one is slandered and called an offspring of worthless people, he should mention his ancestors to prove that the statement is wrong. So all of us, we have our, we have our ancestors. We know who they are, but you don't see us just coming on here being like, well, I come from. Because I think once you start doing that, there's always somebody's genealogy who's higher. So just be proud of your ancestors, including your Maka'ainana ancestors. Don't always just be like, I know I'm only Ali, because we have our Maka'ainana ancestors and they helped us
They're
a lot.
just as
That's why we're
good
here.
as
Yep, they're just
Na'ali'i.
yeah. So
Mhm.
that one is saying, don't both find all of, like how everybody's saying here, find all of your documents, put it in. You tell your ohana who you're related to. That's great. But then you also teach your children. You don't brag. You don't say, oh, I come from this or I come from
With aloha,
her.
yes.
Yeah, because there's
And
always
kokua
somebody's.
other people
But
too.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
to help, like how everybody's saying, help other people, help them. That's how your ancestors um get life too, is when you're helping other people too. You're helping and helping them to help their ancestors and for them to start carrying their ancestors. So it's a great thing. So just know and be proud of who you come from, where you come from. Um, but just know that that's how the people who are true genealogists, they keep it quiet. They don't just go, oh, by the way, I'm related to. There's only people, in my opinion, who are just showcasing or who want attention say that. But for everybody who doesn't say that, they just go, oh yeah, okay, like that. So I think that everybody should be very be very humble when you're doing your ancestry.
Kalani?
Basically, what they said, the Native Hawaiian Genealogical Society group is a good group
Mhm.
to network, get information, ask with, be humble, and ko olelo no ia punahele, said, ai pa'akamaka, ha'ikana. So,
Yeah,
post.
yeah. Don't boast.
Apona?
Yeah.
I went. I mean,
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what it. Well, with that being said, thank you, folks, our panels. Thank you to our viewers. Now is a great time to start if you're thinking about it. I mean, you have a lot of great resources. You need help, you can reach out to one of us. We are on Facebook as well, on the Native Hawaiian Genealogy Society group. And, thank you to Dean Keko'olani, Kavika Kamake'eaina, Robert Manu, and all those guys that helped start the group way back when.
Yeah.
I think I became a member right in the beginning. So I was fortunate. It was right around the same time I was doing our reunion thing. So,
So
but
yay.
yeah.
No,
Anyway,
yeah.
I was very grateful for that group. I
yeah.
found out a lot of things and met a lot of my family members through it. So
Me too.
yeah.
No. Oh, and I wanted to
A lot
mention,
of
sorry, real
connections.
quick. If you folks get a chance when you're doing a genealogy, go visit their graves if you can, clean their
Yes.
graves if you can. For me, whenever I'm home in Hawaii, no matter what island I'm on, I'm always make a point to go and look for cemeteries. I know
Yeah.
it sounds kind of weird, but if I can find our tutus or whatnot, I will do videos and pictures and document them, and then I'll post it on the family group. I just think it's really a great time to go do
Yeah.
that, and I love going and cleaning and all that. So, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you folks will do that as well.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
I do.
So, anyway, thank you to Moana Nui podcast and Papa Olo Lōkahi. With that being said, aloha, everybody.
Ahui ho, palama.
Aho.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf if we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.